All right, hello and welcome to the Ask Me Anything for October 29th, 2020. My new puppy is yapping in the other room in his kennel. He's not really happy with the kennel at the moment, so you might hear some yapping happening, so my apologies for that. But we're within 1 week of the 2020 Reebok CrossFit Games just ended, and so a bunch of the questions today and the Ask Me Anything are related to the games, which is cool. I was lucky enough to go down there and be an analyst for the Rogue Iron game. So it was fantastic. I haven't done live broadcast in a couple years, so it was cool and nerve-wracking and exciting to do live once again, it's not live like this, it's live where you have dedicated windows and formats and time blocks and throw to packages and B-rolls and interviews, and so it was good. Blew the dust off that. All right, here we go. Let's dive right in. First question is from Melanie, most upvoted. So, did you feel this weekend at the CrossFit Games was a true test of fitness? Was there something you would have liked to have seen tested? Fantastic question, and a question that we could probably spend an hour on, but the short answer is yes. I think it was a test of fitness, especially when we remember that what we saw over the course of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday was stage 2 of the 2020 Reebok CrossFit Games. That stage 1 took place online, virtually, then the top 5 men and 5 women moved to a live in-person competition. But stage 1 and stage 2 together are the totality of the CrossFit Games for this season. So when we look, I called up the events here. So when we look at Stage 1, which took place on September 18th and 19th, then Stage 2, October 23, 24, 25, together we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 events. 19! The people who were crowned fittest man and woman on planet, and the rest of the podium placers, and everyone that shook out, that they did the whole deal, those final 5 through stage 2, they got basically judged and evaluated over the course of 19 events. Now, yes, stage 1 kind of got wiped clean when they showed up to stage 2, but if they didn't crush stage 1, we wouldn't be watching them in stage 2. So they had to earn it to get there, and they did fantastic. And, you had everything from single modality movements to pure tests of strength, from the 1 rep max front squat on stage 1 to a CrossFit total in number 2, snatch speed ladder, so you're testing explosive power and accuracy at ridiculously heavy loadings while doing it against a time clock. You had classic couplets, you had swimming, you had interval work. The swimming event was something which was an interval style workout, which was really cool. You had long, miserable, grueling events, such as the Ranch Loop, which obviously turned into about a 6-mile run instead of a 3. And then that Atlanta, however you pronounce that, I'm just going to call it Atlanta. The Atlanta workout at the end there. You had a mile running on both sides. You got this miserable combination of Murph meets Mary, and you've got a weight vest in there. Strict push-ups, strict handstand push-ups in stage 1, a terrible version of Fran in stage 1. So, threw him on the bike, had him do the legless rope climbs, handstand walking. So it's like, okay, we had just barbell and strength stuff, but now there's just gymnastic stuff in the handstand walk. Had the sled sprint, had that terrible workout that started off the 2007 reload with a 1,500-meter row buy-in, then crazy heavy weight going overhead, bar muscle-ups paired with that, time domains from short to long. So, man, freestanding handstand hold in stage 1. So when you look at all of that, these people were put through the ringer. I'll tell you that. Absolutely put through the ringer. And when you look at from pulling off the ground to below parallels to overhead to having to be conditioned to having to be fantastic with body weight movements to the slow lifts to the fast lifts to odd objects. It was I feel profoundly confident that the people who earned their spots on the podium absolutely earned their spots on the podium and, should hold their head high. I don't think there was too many stones left unturned, especially, like I said, when you look at the totality of stage 1 plus stage 2. I think the second part of your question, Melanie, was there something you would have liked to have seen tested? Maybe I would have to give that question the respect that it deserves isn't a casual glance. I would have to really sit down hardcore, take a serious look, and then just see, from my personal flavor, would I have massaged something one way or another or replaced A with B or something like that? Maybe. But I think that the end result probably would have been really close to the end result that we've got now. I mean, you're just not going to keep Mat and Tia from gold medals. It's just not going to happen, and the battle for the podium would have been absolutely fantastic no matter what. So, yeah, I thought it was a very, very legitimate test. Robin Thomas. Robin, I'm going to kind of lump your question in with Erica Sue Jackson's. They're a little bit different, but the way that I formulate the answer in my mind kind of touches on both of them. So I'll read both questions. Robin's question was, it was great seeing the old gang back together for the broadcast this weekend. Loved the analysis from you and Annie. Thank you. What was the coolest behind the scenes thing that happened this weekend? So that's Robin's question, the behind the scenes thing. Then Erica Sue Jackson's question is, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the future of the sport. Mat Fraser, do you think he'll stick around for a 6th championship? And are we going to see a rise in the next generation with athletes like Medeiros and Adams? So the reason I'm going to lump those two together is this was a unique year at the Games. And so our broadcast, for example, was just off-site. It wasn't actually at Aromas because of the quarantine and the bubble and COVID-19. They tried to limit interaction as much as possible. I had to get a COVID test before I went down there. Then as soon as I got on site, I got another COVID test. And then, everyone is kind of just isolated and quarantined at the hotel and whatnot. But so we operated out of Brethren CrossFit just down the road from Aromas. And that's where we did all the live broadcasts from there, not mixing with everything that was happening on site for safety reasons. So my quote-unquote, behind-the-scenes kind of stuff was very limited. But what cool access that I did enjoy and was fantastic was in the lead-up to the Games, which, sadly, I'm sorry, Linchpin, but I had to keep it a secret from everybody and not let everybody know what I was doing until Rogue and everyone else announced that Iron Game would have these people on it, etc., etc. So I was living a double life for a little while. But during the week or two lead up to the Games, I had to do all my research to make sure that when the cameras clicked on, I didn't sound like a bungling fool and I had all my facts straight. And so during that due diligence time, I called about, I think, 8 out of 10 athletes. I wound up getting on the phone and had some great conversations with them, took a bunch of detailed notes, poked and prodded them for information, how their training's been, the whole 9 yards. And those interactions I cherish, and I feel very honored and privileged to be able to chat with those athletes, privately and pick their brains and earn their trust and, open up to them, have them open up to me. And those are really cool, fun, genuine interactions. And I feel, blessed to be a part of that. And so that's what relates to the two. I kind of consider that maybe some behind-the-scenes sort of thing, since it's not, most folks aren't able to do that. So now looping back to Erica Sue Jackson's question, let's see, Mat Fraser, do you think he'll stick around for a 6th championship? Yes. Which is ridiculous to say. Ridiculous. When Froning got 4 gold medals, it was like, you never see that again. It's not, no one's going to be able to be on top of their game against a worldwide competition where anyone in the world can come gunning for you. You're not going to stay at the top of the mountain for that long. It's just not possible. And he did it for 4 years, and of course, Then Fraser did it for 4 years. And then we've got, Fraser now doing it for 5th. Tia's done it for 4. And the question becomes, how long can they keep doing it? Well, here's all I'll say is, there was nothing that I saw from Mat Fraser this weekend, since your question specifically about Fraser. There was nothing I saw from Mat Fraser that would lead me to believe he won't be the same Mat Fraser, and I shouldn't say the same, a better Mat Fraser, as scary as that is, next year in 2021. The conversations that I've had with him leading up to the games, nothing in those conversations leads me to believe that he doesn't have the capacity to do this again. And one of the biggest defining factors, I think, in this is, as an athlete is continuing to train at such a high level for so long, such as he has done and Tia has done, you've got to do it smart. You've got to. Or you're going to wind up just a broken athlete for the loading and the volume that those people live under on a regular basis. And he is healthy. He is a healthy man. He feels good top to bottom. And that is impressive. And as a matter of fact, feels better than he has in a relatively long period of time. That should scare the competition as well. That every year he's been dominant, and this last year he's feeling even better than ever before and still feels like he has plenty of areas to improve. Here's what makes... I might be getting into a different question, contemplating as to whether or not we go down a rabbit hole here. We'll take a step or two down the rabbit hole. We won't go all the way down it. What makes Mat and Tia is a whole list of factors, in my opinion, that we could dive into. But in some of them, how to say this without hurting people's feelings? Okay, I won't care. If it hurts your feelings, I'm sorry, but it's going to hurt my feelings too. So this is not an attack on any one individual, because I'm attacking myself with it. In those list of factors that make Mat and Tia, is they're just better and more capable than most people, even on their worst day. And that includes me. I can't, even if you rewind the hands of time and I was, in my early 30s, or whatever it was, I cannot do what they do. Most people cannot do what they do. You can't just fill in your favorite athlete's training program, do that, and turn into that athlete. Sorry, that's not the case. Just like you can't go do whatever basketball training camp your favorite NBA star does, and that's why you're not in the NBA either. Like there is some people are just better than others. I'm sorry. I don't think you're supposed to say that in 2020, right? But it's just true. Some people are better than others, and it's not fair. Life is not fair. When Mat and Tia stop working out or reduce their volume or hang up their competition days, and let's just say they're casually working out 3 times a week, as far as they're concerned, they're just kind of mailing in workouts, they will still be fitter than the overwhelming majority of the population, and it won't make any sense. And I've seen this time and time again with competitive athletes that are now no longer competitive. They've moved on to different phases of their life. They've slowed down significantly. They're doing 1 workout a day. They let the nutrition slide a little bit. Nobody can still touch them because they're just made of different stuff. And that's not fair, but that's just how it is. So you get one of these people, who I hate to call like a genetic freak, okay? But they have the genetic potential to be a genetic freak. So you get one of these genetic freaks, which just in their raw genetic freak state, they're better than most folks. Most folks who are training their tail off. Well, then you take one of these crazy genetic freaks, and then you find one that's not only a genetic freak, but has it between the ears as well, a maniacal work ethic. They're ferociously competitive on top of being a freak. They surround themselves with the right people. They remove their ego and understand that they need to embrace things that they're not good at and shore up those holes in their weaknesses, and they just don't spend additional time on their strengths, and they're constantly in a state of learning about what they do, etc., etc. You get that person that has that genetic capacity, and that crazy work ethic and competitiveness between the ears, and you put them in the right environment and surround them with the right people to just cultivate that and fuel that fire, that doesn't come along that often. And when it does, those are the people that we watch on TV and we go, wow, why isn't every basketball player as good as fill in the blank? Why isn't every CrossFitter as good as fill in the blank? I invest in the stock market. A lot of people watching invest in the stock market. How come we're not Warren Buffett? Life's not fair. Some people have a wheelhouse, and when you get the right person in their wheelhouse, surrounded by an amazing team, and they just ferociously dedicate every waking moment of their life to it, those are the people that we watch. And we're seeing that unfold with Mat and Tia. And in their own words, both of them feel like they have more in the tank. And so I think we're going to see something very similar next year. And that's crazy. It's insane. And it's amazing to watch what human beings are capable of. Is amazing. So that's it. Let's see. Oh, there's a whole other part of the question. I forgot. The upcoming generation. Are we going to see a rise in the next generation athletes like Medeiros and Adams? Short answer, yes. Does that mean one of them takes down the champ next year? That's a high bar to set. But we've got some younger athletes in the ranks coming up that we all should be excited to watch, because there's a lot of potential coming up, and that's very exciting. Justin Medeiros, I enjoyed watching him compete so much. He laid it out on the line every time. He gave his all. He poured his heart and soul into every workout. And he made some mistakes. That's why they're called rookie mistakes. You have to make them, right? Experience comes from making mistakes. You've got to make mistakes. So he was in there. He did more things right than he did wrong. And he's going to walk away with a tremendous lessons learned. He's going to get back to his training, shore up some weaknesses, and I can't wait to see him come back. I'm so excited that he made the podium. Haley Adams. If you didn't walk away from the weekend a fan of Haley Adams, you were watching a different competition than I was. She is a warrior. She's a warrior. She competed so well, and you can tell she's been playing sports her whole life and trains regularly with Rich Froning and Tasia Persevich. She just had it between the ears. Whether something got under her skin or not, she didn't show it. I mean, she just had a poker face the entire time. It appeared unflappable, which is one of the things that a lot of the champs have as well. Like Fraser appears unflappable a lot. Froning just appeared unflappable, and Haley Adams kind of had that same deal as well. And for a 19-year-old young woman, the capacity that she has is mind-boggling. And then on that last event where she basically just degloved her hands and she's just has these huge flaps of skin ripping off and there's just blood pouring out, she is a ninja. I mean, I think she might have looked at her hands for a second, but again, there was no outward look of her being deflated and giving up and, well, I can't go on. She just kind of looked at it and probably in her head was like, well, that really sucks because I've got a lot of work left to do. And she just chalked up her bloody, pulpy hands and started doing pull-ups again. That young lady is tough as nails. I'm a Haley Adams fan. So when you've got ferocious warriors like that in the young ranks coming up, it gets me excited to keep my eye on the sport. So it should be very cool. Okay. I should just do a games recap show, to be honest with you. Maybe I need to consider that. Okay. Next one. Rob Knight. Rob, I think your question was near the top. Here it is. Can you train to create a competitive mindset? To learn how to push yourself to the quote-unquote limits when your body is saying no more? Can you learn to do that? A lot of self-help books would say yes. And they're probably making a pretty penny off of it. Can you train the mindset? I rolled this around. I've asked this question before. I think yes to some degree. But again, there's also just different shades of this from on a relative scale of normalcy, and then on the pinging the end of the scale where like the psychopaths and the sociopaths live. And that neighborhood of where, being able to push your body because your mind is so tough to endure physical pain and discomfort well beyond when most sane, rational people would have throttled back or stopped because every pain sensor in your body is saying, what you're doing is wrong, pump the brakes now. That's good. Your body's made that way for a reason because you don't want to damage it, right? But then there are these individuals, whether they're born that way or trained it, that can start to get into the psychopath and sociopath pain tolerance realm. And a lot of the athletes that we saw over the course of the weekend from the games arguably have the ability to tap into that area, albeit for short periods of time or long periods of time. I most certainly, in a previous life, different phase of my life, spent a lot of time in that psychopath, sociopath, pain, endurance area. And that was back in the good old Navy SEAL days of making it through SEAL school, through BUDS, and then being in the teams for 7 years and doing all that stuff. And when I look back at some of that stuff now, like how did I get through some of that stuff now? Like how did I endure what we had to go through in BUDS or Hell Week or just fill in the blank, blah, blah, blah. I shake my head every now and then. I'm like, how did I pull that off? But I have to remember, I was in a different phase of my life. And at that phase in my life, and again, I've been vocal about this, I hate that cliche stuff like find your why or whatever it happens to be. But that is wrapped into it. Finding your why, meaning why do you want to do whatever it is that we're talking about? Why do you want to make it through SEAL school? Why do you want to be able to push hard in a workout? Why do you want to, fill in the blank? What is it that you want? What is it that you want to achieve? Why is it so important to you? And then, what are you willing to lose or sacrifice in the pursuit of this topic? And people like Mat and Tia have literally rearranged their entire lives and forego a lot of the pleasures that most of us go through, whether it's food or free time or, casually. They have rearranged their lives because they understand their why, their want, their desire to be champion. They are willing to do everything. They are willing to upend everything in their life to pursue that. Back in the days when my goal was to become a SEAL, I used the term goal. Like, that's what I want to do. But it wasn't a goal. It was an obsession is probably a better term. And if you've got a goal, like a casual little goal, well, if it's a casual little goal, then you probably pursue it with casual little intensity and dedication and commitment. When you have like an all-encompassing obsession that borders on a clinical disorder, you tend to see a higher level of commitment, a higher level of dedication. You're willing to sacrifice more things in your life, etc., etc. I remember, being at BUDS when I was 21 years old, and it wasn't like just a fake words. I had in my mind that I was not going to quit during an evolution, regardless of how much pain and misery the instructors lumped on us. My options were I would either black out or pass out because of the pain, the discomfort, the cold in the water, underwater too long, whatever it happened to be. But I was not going to quit. They'd have to drag me off, force me to quit, or I'd go to a hospital, or I would lose my life in training. Hearing that now, it sounds way over the top and ridiculous and like, all right, tone it down. That seems like a little bit of hyperbole and exaggeration. Like, that's some big language. And it seems that way now, but that wasn't big language when I was in it. I would have passed a polygraph that all those statements were true. I was willing to die versus not make it through training. That's it. And I was willing to sacrifice everything in my life to achieve my goal in the military. And if that meant my relationship with my family had to suffer, relationships with my friends had to suffer, if I didn't have any hobbies or free time because I was maniacally training, I was willing to sacrifice all of those things in pursuit of my lifelong goal and obsession. Well, I made it. Is that a very healthy place to be? Probably not. I think a lot of champions in whatever realm, CrossFit, car racing, golf, NBA, like if you're a champion or a champion of business, you are the owner of a massive corporation with thousands of employees, I don't think most of those champions are well-rounded people. I think they are maniacally single-minded folks and live an unbalanced life because that's where they are and that's how important whatever it is that they're pursuing is. And so for the casual individual working a 9 to 5, got a couple kids, like to do something on the weekend and all of that, that's a big ask, you know? And so we've really gone down a heck of a rabbit hole for this question, but when it's a competitive mindset, and can you teach your body to push the limits and go through some discomfort? Yeah, I think it's easier if you have an all-encompassing goal, an all-encompassing why, an all-encompassing obsession that it's the first thing you think about when you get up in the morning. It's the last thing you think about when you go to bed. And it's on your mind all day long. I can tell you that's what's going on with Mat and Tia. I mean, they are maniacally single-minded and focused. That's how I was back in the day. But now, if the average, quote-unquote, average person wants to just get a little bit of that, right, without giving up all their friends, family, and free time, yeah, I think you can do it. And I think you have to do some self-reflection. I think you need to look inward. And again, ask yourself, why is it you're doing what you're doing? Write down some things and goals so you see them every day. And not just goals, but then how you're going to obtain those goals. And then you can do a crawl, walk, run approach. If you want to get better at things you're not good at, if you just go deep into the pool from day one, you know, I'm not good at running, so I'm going to go do a 15K tomorrow. You're probably setting yourself up for failure. Again, baby steps, crawl, walk, run. I think there is a way to gently expose yourself to the stimulus that you would like to get better at. Pull back a little bit, shake it out, see if you have any lessons learned. Go back to that stimulus, potentially for more intensity at the same time domain or a little bit of a longer time. Come back, assess, and just, I think it is possible, but it just takes effort, like anything else. Hopefully that helped, Rob, and it wasn't too much of a rabbit hole there. Rob Brown, where are you? Here we go. If a friend who's worked out in the... I just had another rabbit hole pop into my head. Forget it. Okay. Rob Brown. If a friend who's worked out in a global gym, doing, for example, 3 sets of 10, etc., occasional cardio, said to you, hey, I want to do a CrossFit workout with you, what would you program to show them the effectiveness of this type of training? Okay, so this is somebody's first exposure to CrossFit. You want to be careful, obviously. So whatever necessary protocols need to be set on the internet, I'm not saying try, do this, don't do that. You have to make sure you're clear with their doctor, their lawyer, their first of kin, 28 blood relatives. Do your due diligence. But what's a wonderfully deceptive workout that, for somebody who's been working out for a while, is very approachable, doesn't seem like it should be that hard, and then suddenly it is? Your friend and mine, Cindy. You tell somebody we're just going to do sets of 5 pull-ups, 10 little push-ups, how hard could that be? And then 15 air squats. 15! No weight! No barbell! You're just going to squat up and squat down 15 times. Whoop-de-doo. And hey, that's called a round. And you know what? we're just going to see how many of those we get in 20 minutes. And of course, like back in my global gym days, I'd be like, 20 minutes? I work out for 90 minutes to 2 hours. First of all, there's no weight in this workout. Second of all, the reps are so low, I'm going to crush this. And then third of all, 20 minutes is so short, this is a laughable workout, let's do this. And then, as anyone who doesn't have exposure to CrossFit will learn, at about, I don't even know if it would take to the 7-minute mark in Cindy, they will collapse upon themselves like a dying star. And everything, they will question all of their life choices and wonder, how in the heck is this so challenging? And depending upon the individual, you might not need to do a full 20-minute AMRAP. A 15-minute AMRAP might be fine. A 10-minute Cindy is plenty of work for a lot of people. So Cindy's great. Cindy's very approachable. Or, couldn't be simpler, your friend and mine, 7 minutes of burpees, right? I mean, if somebody's been working out for years and years and has all this fitness, you should be able to just get on the ground and get off the ground, right? That's it. That's all we're saying. So we're going to get on the ground and we're going to get off the ground for 7 minutes. And just see how many of those we can accumulate. Couldn't be simpler. And that's it. So those are good ones, I would think, anyway. Simon Scott, how do we know if the test has gone too far? This is an interesting question. Okay, Simon Scott. It's been playing on my mind since the games. Do you think there is a point at which a workout becomes too much? Specifically, Atlanta. Seeing Haley and Brooke with bloodied hands after 300 pull-ups just seems a step too far. Coming in under or around an hour doesn't seem too taxing, and Carrie obviously crushed it. But when does a test of fitness stop being a test and become something else? Cool question. Great question. Thought-provoking one. Yeah, I think there is a border or a boundary or a limit. And that's why testing is absolutely critical. Critical to make sure that whatever it is you're going to expose these athletes to is what you want it to be, and it shouldn't be a surprise, and it shouldn't catch you in an odd way or any of that stuff. So testing is absolutely mission critical to running a professional, safe, comprehensive, appropriate event. But with that being said, you don't want to exceed the athlete's capacities, because if we really mean that we exceeded their capacities, well then if we've exceeded, they cannot do it. That's what exceeding your capacity means. So then we're just going to watch a bunch of people fail. And nobody wants to watch a bunch of people fail. And it doesn't do the athletes any favor to just set them up for failure. So that's no good there. But what you want to do in an ideal world is come just about as close to that limit as possible. If not, bump into it gently every now and then and ride that line of what seems appropriate, of what seems possible, and then watch the athletes do their thing. But that's a heck of a tightrope to walk. A heck of a tightrope. And it can't be done just casually on the side. It has to be somebody's full-time focus to make sure that it's being done the way that it should. But could you make something too much? If that's your question, you absolutely could. Absolutely could. It's not hard to make a workout that's so nasty that nobody could do it. It's actually that's easier to do than to make a good workout, and it's easier to do than to make a workout that tests somebody's limits. So that's not the goal, but it certainly is possible. And it's this constant back and forth of, the tests get more extreme, for lack of a better word, and then the athletes prove that they can do it. And the tests get a bit more extreme, and somehow the athletes prove that they can do it. And we think that we've reached the limits of what somebody could do, and then somehow human beings do it. And so it's a very delicate and precise dance that has to happen in order for that to be done properly. Okay, final question from Amy Boyle. Amy took a screenshot of what I posted yesterday I think it was, on my personal Instagram page, which was that sheet of paper with all the workout stuff written on, programming stuff written on. I kind of said that I was in the midst of programming, paying attention to some stuff. Looking back helps you look forward. And she says, I'd be interested in hearing more about this post. So I'm just starting to get going on the next 4-week block of training. And how I like to start personally is I like to just write down in reverse chronological order. So the most recent events at the top, the most distant events in the past near the bottom of the page, of heavy days. Heavy days, be it a classic heavy day or a workout that has a heavy bias, such as a heavy day at a high heart rate. And I just make this long list of them. What the workout was, the rep scheme, the loading, the movement. If it was a heavy day at a high heart rate, what was it also paired with? What were the rest intervals? And then I write down the date at which each one of those things occurred. And looking back at that, just one segment, right? I mean, we need to do the same thing with body weight, with monostructural, with mixed modality, the whole 9 yards. But that's just how I like to start personally. And so I'll have that written down, and then I'll get another sheet of paper out and start to scratch down what hasn't popped up in a little bit, what needs to rear its head again if it becomes obvious that, let's just say for argument's sake, that we need a front squat. Okay, we need a front squat, but then looking backwards, what exactly do we need to do that would make the most sense for a front squat? Should it be a classic heavy day with nothing else? And if the answer is yes, because maybe the last time that we front squatted, it was a heavy day at a high heart rate. Okay, so now we're going to do just the heavy day as a standalone heavy day. And obviously, if we're making that decision, it's because the overhead squat and the back squat, with regards to just squatting, has come up in a way that makes sense for the front squat to come back up. And now, if it's going to be just a classic heavy day, well then let's look back again and see when we have front squatted most recently, what did those classic heavy day front squat numbers look like? Was it a 7x1? Was it a 5x5? Was it sets of 3? Was it 7x2? Was it 3 sets of 10? Was it whatever it happened to be? And then that gives me a sense of, okay, we know that we need a front squat classic heavy day. I've got an idea now of maybe it makes sense that it needs to be a 5x5. Okay, but then we continue to look back, and let's just say that, the week before we happened to do a 5x5 back squat. Well, if we did a 5x5 back squat the week before, even though we need a front squat this week, and a 5x5 seemed to make sense, well, I don't want to do a 5x5, so I'll go back and find the next rep scheme in line that makes the most sense to have the appropriate amount of variance, etc., and to provide everyone in the community. And that, that was just to program potentially one front squat day. So that level, in my opinion, of analysis and detail and thought and massaging has to happen with every single day, every single aspect, every single loading, every single rep scheme, every single time domain. And that's how I start to roughly plan out the skeleton for, let's say, the next 4 weeks. I'll plug in some building blocks. But they're just rough. I can't fall in love with them. And then I'll play that same game, like I said, with all the other things you need to consider for the programming. And once it gets kind of laid out and I can see it all in its totality, then there's going to be some things that I obviously do not like. Worked well on paper, but then don't work well when you see the symphony of the 4 weeks play out. Now it just doesn't make sense. And then that has to be massaged or changed, or something will be moved around. So it's just a very long process. I really enjoy it, quite frankly, in a bizarre way. I love it, but it's just a very long, tedious, thoughtful process that has to go to make sure that before I give the programming out to all of you, that I'm proud to have Linchpin's name on it. I'm proud to say that I did it, and it makes me smile when I look at it, and then and only then can we put it forward to the world. So that process was just starting to manifest this week. So that was that. Okay, let's end with, as I've been trying to do recently, some Linchpin shout-outs. Let's see. Looks like we've got about 6. Now, these are things that just over the course of the week, I don't remember to do this every day, so there's probably something cool that I missed, and I apologize. But just cool things. If I see them on the private Facebook group, I take a screenshot of it, put it in this little folder on my computer, and then I try to remember to bring it up on these days. So, here we go. First one. I somehow labeled this just bench press. What is this? Okay, this is from Jackson Tyler. Okay. One of my favorite parts of vacation is getting to drop in at different gyms. Since it's not a regular thing, I just do their programming for the day and it counts as a bonus. So we dropped into CrossFit Music City in Nashville, and let's see. They did a workout, but then afterwards, they bench pressed. And he says, since I hadn't bench pressed in 8 months, I figured I'd see what I had in me. I hit 225 pounds for a triple like it was nothing, which I probably haven't done in a couple of years and 50 pounds ago. All that being said, all that to say is you don't have to bench all the time to be strong at it. This program works like a charm. Very, very cool. I mean, that's exactly what we say all the time. We do plenty of pressing, and though it may not be in a bench press, we do plenty of pressing, and it will pay off dividends for you. This one was from Butch. Butch, who writes, it was a great picture of their hotel room. They did JT in the hotel room. They moved around some furniture and put over they had 2 nightstands next to each other, and they did dips between the 2 sets of nightstands. And on one of the chairs, they did piked push-ups. So I really just liked the fact that they labeled the furniture in their hotel room as to how they made it work for JT. So made it happen, even though they were traveling, got in their fitness. Christina Krempik. No JT for me today. Too much shoulder work when I'm trying to correct a shoulder issue. Plus, I did this recently 2 months ago. But I did get the accessory work done, and I hit a deadlift PR of 235 pounds. Well done, Christina. And she said she's closer to her goal of 250 pounds by her 50th birthday next year. So Christina has a goal, 250-pound deadlift by her 50th birthday. It's a year away, and right now she just hit a PR of 235 pounds. Christina, congratulations. Awesome. Strong lift, and I would say you are setting yourself up well to obtain your goal next year. Okay, let's see. What was this? I don't know what that is. Okay, Jen. All right, Jen. Leader of our zombie apocalypse team. Okay, so Jen did JT, Hero Workout JT, 21:15:9, handstand push-ups, ring dips, and push-ups. And she said she knew she probably could have eked out a PR, but this was a total surprise. So she PR'd JT by 3 minutes and 2 seconds. That is a massive, massive improvement. And Jen's been at this for a while, so it's really cool to see that even if you've been around for quite some time, good things keep happening. Okay, and then finally, Lindy, I don't want to mispronounce your last name, Huddlebrink. Lindy Huddlebrink. So Lindy says, finished her 3rd marathon today. This was my 2nd one where I solely ran 1 time a week, long run, and did CrossFit 4 to 5 times a week. Thankful for our awesome programming to allow me to successfully run a marathon without having to train. And there are 3 actually, beautiful metrics, right? Somebody did a long monostructural piece, did a marathon. Somebody else PR'd a heavy lift with a deadlift. And then somebody else took 3 minutes off just a bodyweight gymnastics movement with JT. All of those things, that's exactly what we're doing at Linchpin, right? We're greedy. We want it all. Just don't want you to be able to run. I want you to be strong. I just don't want you to be strong with the barbell. I want you to be strong with your body. And we can do that with patience, with commitment, with dedication, without overtraining, and we can do it with 1 workout a day. And you should feel good doing it. So, that's it. Yeah, good to be back. Sorry I couldn't do the AMA last week, but I was in my hotel room prepping for the games. So we're back on schedule. Have a great day, Linchpin. Enjoy your rest day, and we will talk soon.